New York City looks so pretty from Ricardo's Total Pad. My goodness gracious, dude. How did I get stuck in the frickin' basement? I wanna wake up in a city that doesn't sleep in Ricardo's Pad. Bro, what the heck? How did you get the upgrade, dude?
Well, you know, when a big star like me rolls in here to Paducah, Kentucky, they give me the greatest
Paducah, Kentucky.
beautiful downtown.
It's like Ricardo was peeling off $100 Krispies everywhere. The bellman gets 100. The front desk gets 100. I am not in the Ricardo suite. Ricardo,
well,
thank you for inviting me upstairs to how the other half lives, my brother.
I told them I was an heiress from Germany and that the wire transfer will be coming any minute now.
You look like an heiress from Germany, dude. All right, so where on earth are we at? We are not in Paducah, Kentucky. We are in the Big Apple, the NYC, for the Theo and Harris meetup. And we had the great idea he came into town early. I went into Princeton early. They came in today. And we went all the way up and down 47th Street.
And a little bit of 48th as well.
And 40, you know what?
Dropped in on our good friend Ruben.
Ruben, we love you, buddy. I'm sorry I was not giving 110%, but by the time I saw you in your shop, I was spent, brother. But I can tell we're going to do some business. You've sorted out Ricardo in the past. I can tell that we can trust you. And on 47th Street, that is something worth paying for.
Yeah, well, Ruben sold me the GMT Master 2 root beer, which
Right.
you may put up an image of. And
I will pop that in. You saw that in our previous. Was that in our Vegas? We met in Vegas at the Paul Thorpe meetup, but we also circled around at the TGV event in Indiana, and I definitely saw it then.
Right, and then I saw the Rolex 1603 on Harrison Ford, and
Did an episode on that too.
And I sent a message to Ruben saying, "Hey, what is this?" And he says, "It's a 1603. I have one." And so a week later, he sent it to me, and Ruben is a guy you can trust to wire money to, and he'll send you the watch he promises. So.
Yeah, when we were with him today, he showed me one of his Omega Speedmasters Moon to Mars, my favorite Omega Professional. It was in great shape. I just was not. I didn't come to New York planning to buy a watch, and that is a serious piece worth consideration. And I noticed that a lot of the models on the market have pristine dials, which is not possible because that watch has been around for a while. I think 2006 is when that came out. Those dials, or the sub-dials, should be weathered. His was aged appropriately, so that's how I know I could trust that one, right?
Well. Yeah.
So we met with him. I think he's definitely one of the highlights. There was this other joint that we popped in towards the end of the day. I didn't shoot any footage. Some of these sellers are real finicky about shooting footage. We even laughed a little bit about why, like who's going to knock them off, but I guess they're afraid of that.
You got to have rules.
Yeah. So I didn't get to shoot with him, but he's one of the sellers who I consistently stop by, and his shop is like super tight, and he's got gold on top of gold in these little trays. I don't mean real gold. I mean valuable, unique, older pieces, more affordable pricing instead of all the bling bling Rolex we saw, right?
Vintage Seikos, stuff from the 1960s.
Speed timers, Pogues.
New old stock.
Yeah.
Interesting items that I'd never seen before.
Yeah. He had Omega Seamaster Chronograph 321. I think he offered it to me for $4,500. I'm not in the market. I have one. So I even did him a solid. I was like, bro, you could totally charge $5,000 for that. You should raise your price on that. And it's not me to tell him his business, but I know the market on certain things, and I like this guy. And I'm eventually going to buy a watch from him, and I'm going to work towards my pricing on another watch, so maybe he'll remember me fondly.
I'll probably drop by there and visit him tomorrow just to, now that we've thought about what's in there and stuff.
Yeah. So he had a Zen 155 day date, which if you're a follower of the channel, you've seen my Zen 155 of the same era and the limited run out of Japan for that. My version was the more traditional Bundeswehr layout, 2-register chrono. This one, which was also part of the limited edition set of 300, had a date complication, so it wasn't my favorite one, but I regret selling the 155, which is why I picked up the 158, which I now need to sell because I kind of fell in love with it. Oh, gosh, I'm rambling. So long-winded. But his first price off the bat, $2,500. Great price, open market price. I could have probably gotten 10% off, and I probably should have closed the deal. It's just I'm so heavy in the collection right now, I didn't.
It's hard to, when you go into 47th Street, there's so much stuff in your face. There's so many guys on the street from their shop trying to pull you in that it gets a little overwhelming, and you only react to that by saying, okay, I'm gonna pause and I'm not gonna pull the trigger on anything right now. So
the reality is,
you have to think about it.
Who can you trust? Who can you trust there? You can trust his guy, Ruben. I know I can trust that guy because I've talked with him at least 3 times. Every time I've been in New York City for coming through that district, I've found my way to him. All these places are nooked and crannied everywhere. His place is awesome. I probably should have gotten his card so I could promote him some because he deserves it. Because the rest of the folks, sharks, man. I don't know how Roman Scharf and his team and anyone else who's in the business navigates these waters.
Well, when you're in it 100% of the time, it probably becomes second nature, I would guess.
Probably have friends, though, too, instead of being, some Yahoo in a Hobby of Hours shirt. Although,
right.
I secretly dream, I hope of the occasion where I walk in with my shirt and someone recognizes me. That's going to be, I should do something special for that person, like a watch giveaway. More on that later. Something. The first person who isn't one of my buddies that recognizes me in public, that's a pretty lofty dream. That's a lofty goal.
You'll get
I gotta
there.
do something. I gotta do something for that.
One day you'll hit the algorithm jackpot like a slot machine, and the views will come pouring out.
Cha-ching! I know, that would be awesome, dude. Highlights. I think one of the funnier highlights for me was absolutely the purple diamond crusted Roman numerals, iced out, blinged out DJ from the Chica Loca Brony Pony episode, like the obnoxious Lakers themed one. And then there was also the Cartier 1920 that I went and I got a price check on. I'd helped Kason buy one. What up, Kason? And we were on eBay open auction. We paid $1,600. And here's the thing. If you're ever going to go to these types of places, whether it's the LA district or the New York district, you need to ask a seller their asking price on a watch you already own or a watch you've already hunted to level set and value check them on their basic pricing strata towards you. So I knew how much that watch was worth, and I wanted to see if this seller was a fair seller, if they had their head on straight. This one didn't. Quoted me $3,500 for a watch that's open market eBay out of Japan, $1,800 all day long. Me and Kason, we got a fabulous deal. So I didn't even debridge that conversation. I just said, "Oh no," and I walked away.
Yes, I recall that. You don't want to start talking turkey if it looks like it's completely out of range.
Yeah, and it's like I don't mind a seller making a buck, but treating me like I don't know, I almost had to give them an education that, like, look, I didn't have this shirt on. I had the Hobby of Hours shirt on. Like, this is not my first rodeo. Crazy. All right, so you took some footage. You like the gold stuff in the ice, my man.
Well,
what did you see?
The precious metals are great watches in like AP Royal Oaks, solid gold. I mean, look, that's a Grail watch. No matter who you are and what your collection was like, that's in Grail watch territory. Or the root beer full gold, which
saw one of those.
Nico would say only drug dealers buy those. Well, maybe only they can afford it.
Well, I almost did. Like before, pre-pandemic, I saw full gold root beer in my AD's window, 30 grand. You know I don't roll that heavy, but it was sitting there ready for purchase. And if I had bought it, like a year later, I could have sold it for 50.
Who knew? Who knew where the prices were going at that time? I mean,
I didn't have a spare 30 grand. It's like I could hand over my car keys and whatever to get it, but
we didn't know what the Federal Reserve was about to do and where prices were going. And
in the full gold, I did meet one seller who had an all gold bluesy sub. They had two of them. One was aluminum bezel, one was ceramic. The aluminum, 25 grand. The ceramic, 35 grand. Yes, that is an unapproachable amount of money for a watch. But there's an AD in my hometown that's got one in their window for 42, which I always felt was way too much. I mean, I don't track or operate in those ranges, but my negotiator gut was like, that's way too much. But 25 G's for that watch, while a lot, that was before negotiating. I'd probably get that for what, 20, 21 maybe? If I had like a grip of cash. If I had Ricardo money and was just going.
This is all play money. This is all monopoly money to us, really.
But this is the most hilarious upgrade. Here's the thing. You're staying in New York longer than me, so I'm glad you got the Brad Pitt suite. It's really funny because there's on this deck. He's got most of the deck. He's got that deck there, all the way to here. But there's another room like right here. I don't want to go up there in case there's a person. And it's like a fourth of the deck. And I was just joking with him.
How did they give me the best suite in the building? It's just like bizarre.
It'd be hilarious if like Brad Pitt came out on that deck, on this itty bitty deck, and we're over here having our Whole Foods and vino. It'd have been hilarious, dude. Absolutely hilarious.
Well, I'm happy and lucky that everything's gone so well this trip, and that our shopping day today was so great. Some of the watches that did leap out to me were not just the blingiest ones and whatever, but also.
What else did you like?
The old style root beers from like the
Clint
1960s and yes,
we saw at least two Clint Eastwoods from different sellers. I price checked them. They said 15. It's a $12,000 watch. Not that I would buy it, but it's not a $15,000 watch.
Well, I mean that was their opening bid, right?
Yeah.
So.
No Surdy dials. I didn't see any Surdy dial Rolex. I'm surprised. Usually that's the ones that have the rubies or the sapphires or the diamonds for the indices, Surdy dials.
We saw tons of watches today, and I will share some of the footage that I took.
Yeah, I'll drop it in.
That is Rolexes that are just iced out all over the place. And those look interesting and fun, but they're not factory ice.
No, not factory
and
set. They call that a bust down.
The factory set ones are the ones that are of greater value, I guess you could say, in that they are original. They're all original.
You liked one of the first windows we stopped at. You liked that Wimbledon.
Wimbledon's, yeah. I mean, I don't have a Grail watch per se. It's not like there's watches that I'm just itching to get. But every time I see a Wimbledon with the green Roman numerals, that's something that I can just imagine having.
Shout out Chris Negroni.
It's something I can imagine having on my wrist, and I mean, right around the corner at the AD down below, there's a Rolex AD right over there. They had one. It was running, so it's not a pure exhibition only watch.
Well, they've started when Rolex started with the exhibition models, like on day one, the movements were not running. I found out because I kept hitting them up over the years. The deal, they had the equivalent of a restrictor plate. They all shipped with running movements, but there was a restrictor plate put in so they wouldn't work. But then they realized how dumb that was, and they fixed that. So all the exhibitions work now, but those are going to form the basis of the CPO program.
Right.
They're going to go back to Rolex because they've been handled.
Why don't you say what the CPO program is?
CPO, certified pre-owned. I don't talk a lot about Rolex on my channel because it's not my area of expertise. I respect it. I have a couple. I aspire to own more. But there are heavier cats out here talking more seriously about it, namely Paul Thorpe, Roman Sharf. The most I've learned about Rolex has been from T&H on the vintage side, and Paul Thorpe generally. Absolutely excellent channels. I'm sure, though, if you're here, you're also there, so I'm preaching to the choir.
Right, and many people said, what? Rolex is going to sell pre-owned watches? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the watches they've had in their stores as exhibition models are going to form the basis of this pre-owned, at least at first.
Yep.
So that's where those are coming from. But anyway, Wimbledon models, they had a few of them out there, and every time I see them, I like them. But, Also, today we saw plenty of aluminum bezel. Coke, Pepsi.
Yeah, all that. Yeah, you did like that Coke, Pepsi. Well, that Coke GMT.
And shout out to another YouTuber, Dr. Rolex PhD, who downgraded, upgraded, whatever you want to call it, from his ceramic bezel GMT to an aluminum bezel one. And then he got the tools to be able to change the bezel at will, so he can make it any watch that he wants. He can have a Coke one day, he can have a Pepsi the other day, he can make a Batgirl,
with the aluminums, those are far easier to change them out. I imagine it's not much different than the video I put out, my very first video on Omega bezel swapping. But also Adrian Barker, shout out to him, amazing channel. One of his very first videos was about him swapping his bezel on his Kermit, which, excellent channel, but I'm sure you're watching that one too. So, all right, let's wrap it up. Bell of the ball on the day. Take a moment to think of it. My bell of the ball has to be that Zen 155. I don't think I'm going to go back. I'm in town for one more day. If I wasn't, I need to be selling some watches, not buying some. I'm trying to save up for something, so it would be extraneous. But if he came back at it, if he had a different starting, his price was fair, $2,500, very fair for that watch, and pretty much net with the market out of Japan, because that model line only came out in Japan, or that subsector came out there. And I really like that guy for some reason. I don't feel like beating him up on his price. I like that dude. You know you're a good shop or store if I'm not trying to get you down on your pricing. All right, what was your bell of the ball?
Well, it's hard to pick just one. I mean, there were so many AP Royal Oaks and various Rolexes of vintage extraction, but probably the when we went up to see Ruben, it was the Omega. Yeah. Which model was that?
From Omega Speedmaster Professional, from the Moon to Mars.
From the Moon to Mars, yeah, I like that watch the best. The dial,
really, that's awesome, dude.
I ran the chronograph on it and reset it a couple of times,
Sharp,
and just
snaps.
Like it sucked me in. I mean, it was good stuff.
It was a great watch. I need to own one of those, but I don't need it and my current Speedmaster Pro, so I'd have to get one and let loose the other, because it would be a redundancy. But Ruben, we might be coming for you. All right, that's all for this episode. Hope that wherever you are in this wonderful, beautiful hobby of ours, you're doing well, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace. Perfect, bro.